is happening, HC Nation? Hey, Zach Edwards here with another episode of the Adventure Box podcast. This is the bonus edition of Cusco and all of Peru. In other words, the Incan Empire. So, today we're going to be talking about some really cool things. And actually, I'm not going to do, well, I've got one more day review or preview of what we're going to be doing by going through some of my pictures. And then we're going to go into the actual history of Cusco. So if you want, you can bypass to the the third video of the Cusco adventure. Otherwise, this is when some of our associates start meeting up with us. We're going to show you some of the cuisine that's there, some of the museums that we were able to walk through. Now, the museums had strict rules that we weren't supposed to take pictures in them. Most of the museums, some we were able to. So, other than that, we're going to show you some pictures that we were able to take pictures of, or images we were able to take pictures of. Things like mummies, skulls, all these different things. And we're actually going to show them twice because there's two different, in our whole travel, there was two different museums that allowed us to take these pictures of these mummies. So, here we go. Let's go into our first, let me show you the picture. So first off, I'm going to start with the local cuisine. Okay, so the local cuisine is so much more than just a going to a restaurant and finding good food. On every street, literally about every, 100 yards, you'd find a street vendor, if not 10 to 20 of them. So depending on the street that you're at, we'll show you basically how much food you're going to be able to see on display by our different vendors. So if you look at this picture that I have up, you're going to be able to see one of the streets here. If you go down this little alley right here, you go into what's called San Pedro Market. So all these street vendors are ones that are not doing it inside the market because that costs money for the vendors. These ones just sell their goods on the streets, literally on the streets. There's the sidewalk where we're supposed to walk, and there's the vendors. So this was a normal thing. It wasn't just a Saturday thing. Every single day. And because Cusco was all about tourism, it was food vendors or it was souvenirs and all different types of souvenirs. I mean, we bought ponchos, we bought hats, we bought, what else did we buy? There was ancient coins to use, to get. And then when you were talking about food, there's every kind of fruit they have there. But also every type of meat, including, I showed you this last time, these little guys. What are they? Those are guinea pigs. You know, the guinea pigs you use as pets? Yeah, that's right. The big hamster, that's what those are. They were selling them everywhere, literally. For one stretch, probably 100 feet, was just vendors of guinea pigs. And they had buckets just like that, full of guinea pigs, selling them on the street. And you'd think, wait, wouldn't you get salmonella? Wouldn't you get poisoning from it? Yeah, you could, but these are so fresh that you literally want to bring them home and cook them right away. There is refrigeration, but a lot of people don't use refrigeration. They don't need to. They don't want to spend the money on the refrigerators. They do have refrigerators, but they don't use them as much. They buy what they need to cook to use them that day. And if they don't use it up, they either feed it to their pets, dogs on the street, or they throw it away. They try not to waste anything, which is so great with the culture. Because like in America, we like to waste food when it comes to compost. Let's see, vegetables. When it comes to the orange peels, the banana peels, the core of the apple. Normally, we'd throw those out into a trash can. We, at our household, actually compost them, and we use them for our gardens. These guys do the same thing. They use them for their gardens and such. But when it comes to trash, they have fairly little trash that actually goes out on the street. Actually, we were trying to figure out where their trash goes because they put up on the whole time that we were there about 8 days. 1 day traveling there, day traveling back. So a combination of about 10 days, but we were actually in Cusco for 8 days, and not one day did we ever see trash collected or trash put out on the side of the road. So I don't know where all the trash went. But what I do know is that they try to hold off from having a lot of trash. Okay, let's go from this down further on the streets. There were also, this is the staple of Peru. These are potatoes. And there were 200, oh, no, it's 200 different types of maize or corn. I think there was like 2,000? What was it? I wrote notes on this. There were hundreds of different versions of potatoes in Peru. And unlike us, where in the United States, we usually have like two of them. We'll have like the smaller ones, and then we have well, I guess then we have sweet potatoes. We have russets, sweet potatoes. We probably have a few dozen. They have a few hundred in Peru. And I can't see it right off. So they have 2,000 types of maize or corn. That is amazing. I know I did write it here, but I can't see where I put it, so I'll have to look that up later. Okay, I'm not going to look it up right now, but all these different types of potatoes, and everyone sells them on the streets, in San Pedro Market, all these different places. Now, going a little bit further, corn. Now they sell corn as like fresh off the stalk, or also dried up in this form for literally stuff like popcorn, or the husks they will sell for tamales. Now, Peru is not known for tamales, but they have things that are like that they wrap it up in the corn husk. Now, if you get one of our boxes, I think it's the melting pot, we actually send you husks, not to make food, not to make tamales, not to make any of those things, to make, they're called husk dolls, baby husk dolls, which are basically, it's like a doll that you'd have, but made out of corn husks. There's a lot of things you can do with corn husks, and that's what they do in Peru. Okay, now, there are so many cathedrals. Walking down the street, almost every direction, on every street, you're going to find a cathedral somewhere on that road. And we probably had 7 of them within a block from us. Now, this is the start of San Pedro Market. And as you can see, there's street vendors also all over the place still. San Pedro Market is actually a closed-in area that is made for markets. You can actually, each of them have a booth, and they can actually lock them up overnight. So when they lock them up overnight, no one disturbs them because there's very little theft here. Why is there little theft? Here's something interesting to know about Cusco. Because it's a tourist spot, because they have a lot of Americans and a lot of people from other countries, they actually crack down on crime fairly harshly to make sure that there is no crime that happens in the city. Things like theft doesn't happen. I mean, literally, people put out all their goods, keep them in their booths, they lock them with locks, but you can easily get around those locks and pull out anything you want, but no one does it. I mean, this area is so honest as far as I could tell. Now, this is actually San Pedro Market. This is actually looking down the aisle. All the booths on this side, those are the ones that you lock up every night, and you keep your goods in your tent booths. On this side, if you go inside this little building right here, you're going to get everything from food to souvenirs to anything you'd like. Most of the residents go through San Pedro Market. Now, some of the tourists do as well. That's why they have souvenirs. But even some of the locals are buying souvenirs as well. So I just thought that would be really interesting to tell you. I've got some other cathedrals. This is another cathedral. This is right outside of San Pedro. So as you can see, San Pedro. This is Hotel something San Pedro. But this is right outside the market. And then this. We went back down to the plaza. Again, the next day, and they had more dancers dancing for this. Now, I'm actually going to be doing extended versions. I'm going to cut them in because it just lags the video, so I can't do that. I don't know why it does, but it does. Another cathedral. So this is one of the biggest cathedrals. Now, one thing that's really interesting, if we zoom up, which I think I probably have better pictures other places, these stones right here, these are all stones that were actually stolen from, and our tour guide will actually tell you more about it, but these stones were actually cut from the Inca stones, which are like huge, and they cut them up to make them into their cathedrals. Not initially. When they initially came, they created their cathedrals. They didn't steal many of the stones from the temples, mostly because they hadn't figured out where the temples were yet. But sometime, I don't remember exactly the date, but in the 1600s, there was a huge earthquake. And because of the big earthquake that came through, a lot of their cathedrals were actually destroyed. So to rebuild them, they had to find new stones. They grab them from up above, they bring them down. Now, the way that you find out if the wall is actually made by the Incas or made by the Spanish is mortar. Mortar is what you put in between the stones. And I'm gonna show you some more of these pictures very quickly. But you'll see what I mean when it comes to, if you look at these stones, you're gonna see all this white stuff coming out between. That's mortar. It's a cement mix. Now, the Incas, they were so precise, they didn't need these. And we're going to get to that in just a second. I'm going to show you a few more pictures, and then I'll show you what I mean by the Incan architecture and how they're so precise. So, okay, I have to have this picture here. Remember I was showing you a guinea pig? This is Mr. Cooey. Mr. Cooey is a restaurant just made for guinea pig. But guinea pig costs you about, what, 100 to about 120 sole. Now, sole is basically $1 buys you $3.56 right now of sole. Sole is their national coin. And so if you convert it, it's like $30 for a guinea pig. Now, to them, that's a lot of money, 120 soles. But for the US dollar, 30 bucks, it's expensive for a single meal. But this is what they call a delicacy. Even Mr. Cooey trying to sell you at eating him. That's what my wife said. She's like, is it right that they're trying to use a guinea pig to eat him and his people and his other creatures? And I was like, I don't know, but they do it. So they also have alpaca. So there's a lot of alpaca meat being served here. I had 3 different types. I had one in curry that it was strips of alpaca meat. It was good, a little gamey. The second one was a steak, an alpaca steak. It's like probably like that big. It was on top of taku, which was a pancake. Actually, I've got a picture of it. I'll show you in just a second. But it's a pancake made of rice and beans. And then we also had alpaca also set up. I'm trying to remember what the next one was. I think it had a sauce in it. It wasn't the best. The steak was actually the best, I think. Just seasoned, just pure alpaca meat. You're thinking, why would you eat alpaca? Well, because that's what it's meant for. Back a long time ago, yes, llamas carried a lot of weight. Alpacas were not made for carrying weight. They're made for their wool, and they're made for their what? For their food, for their meat. That's just what it was. It's like us having cows. They have alpacas. So we might think they're nice and cute and cuddly, but somebody else in some other country might say, hey, those cows are nice and cute and cuddly, and yet you eat them? So it's somewhat the same. Okay. So this was the full frontal part of Mr. Cooey. Quite inventive. Actually, interesting enough, right next door to it was Patty's Irish Pub in Peru. It was very interesting. But if you go on the other side of the cathedral, you have KFC. So there's a lot of mixtures in the Plaza del Armas. So, okay, now we start walking up this street. This is the one right next to Mr. Cooey. Again, cobblestones, cars, all packed in. And you start seeing these stones right here. Now, this is really interesting. Look at these stones, both sides. This is actually the museum for El Papa, so the Pope. And so we did not actually go into this one. It wasn't part of our itinerary. But it was really interesting to see that they actually had a museum for the Pope. And I'm guessing this was here before the new Pope came, but the new Pope is a U.S. a U.S. born Pope, but he served a lot of his time in Peru. And so they actually had a picture of him in the front foyer in this area. And we didn't go in because it cost too much money and wasn't in our itinerary. But look at the stones. See these stones? There's no mortar in between them. There's nothing coming out in between them. That's because they're cut so perfectly, they fit together. Now, they're also cut with a groove in them, which our tour guide will talk to you later on about, but it's made so that they're like almost like Legos, so that they go together and lock in. So even if there's an earthquake, they do not move. How cool is that? They were so advanced in their building that when the cathedrals were falling down, none of these walls were moving. In the temples, they were not moving. So a lot of these stones were brought down and made into this. Some of these were already here, or they were cut up to be put into the cathedrals when they had to rebuild those. So you had ones like this. Now, here's an interesting one. Okay, this one right here. Look at all the sides that they have. Normally, there's 4 sides. There might be 6 sides. There might even be 10 sides. This one has the most sides that they know of in Cusco. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And back to the beginning. There's 12 sides to this block. Why? Because it fit in perfectly. As I said, they put their Legos together so perfectly that when an earthquake happens, they don't lose it. Okay, next. I'm skipping some images because they're more personal ones. Let's see. Yeah, that's my wife and I. Okay, so thank you also to Google Translate. Now, yesterday we talked about American Inca tours or Eco Trails. American Inca Trails. I love that company. It is a great tourist group agency, and they did all of our travels. Everything went like near perfect. They were so well organized. I heard from a lot of other people that there were crazy things happening. One guy was stuck in the city down below Machu Picchu, and he paid like, I think he was yelling over the phone, "I paid you $400 up front. I'm not paying the rest. I'm going to go after my credit card to get my money back." All these different things. American Inca Trails was perfect when it came to our tours, our tour itinerary. Now, another shout out I gave yesterday was to Tierra Viva. That was our hotel. They have like 3 locations in Cusco. Amazing hotel. I mean, everything from the bedding, the rooms. They had purified water whenever we wanted it. They had other kind of desserts, and their breakfasts were amazing. So, shout out to them. One more shout out, and this is more of a corporate one, but this is Google Translate. This is where I could actually have my camera pointed at a sign in Spanish, and it would translate it on the spot. So it actually helped us understand a lot of things about different things, depending on what it was. So shout out to them. I appreciate that. This was another one I was trying to do. Okay. This was absolutely cool. I don't know if you guys have ever played with miniatures, like miniature figures. There's tabletop games. There's creating dioramas like this. This is a near accurate diorama of Machu Picchu, which we will be showing you in 2 days. But look at that. It's so, I could actually tell you where each of these parts were. We went around there. I've got pictures around this building right here. I've got pictures all throughout these buildings going down here. This is where the, I'm not going to go too far, but some things were over here. There's actually, if you could see it behind this point right here, there's actually a new idol that was found. It's found in the ground. It's sunken, and they're excavating it currently. And so we weren't able to see it because it actually had a board or a platform above it. But the tour guide was actually trying to explain what it looked like as well as he knew. So I had to take a picture of this. There's no way I was not going to take a picture. Up here, you're going to see that there's an observatory. Yeah, that's right. Back in Inca times, they actually had an observatory. This is a place where you actually be able to see the stars away from the city and take scientific observations. And then down here is where you actually had, where they think is the university. Now, in the university, they had everything from reflecting pools so they could see the stars and see the sun. And yeah, it was absolutely amazing. I loved going here. This was, again, this has been on my bucket list forever. And then when I had a chance to go down for business, oh, I jumped at it. So there's a better picture of this part right here is what they think is a university. This is some of the housing and the storage. There's also like every single one of these buildings has idle nooks and they call them windows, but they weren't windows. You don't look through. You look at the idol that was supposed to be there. There are some windows that you look through, but the other ones you don't actually look through. So just more and more. Yeah, I love this. This was so well done. This is actually the Inca Museum in Peru. So now this was interesting. And our tour guide will talk to you more about this, but I'll just do a really brief preview of this. These are the skulls of the royalty. Yeah, that's right. This was not torture. They did this to themselves on purpose. Actually, they didn't do it to themselves. By the time they were adults, your head is too hard to mold. But when you're a child, when you're a newborn, you put blocks on both sides, you wrap it around with cords, and it elongates the head. That's right. So you have all different types of heads for the royals. That's how you tell if it's a royal skull or a commoner skull. Now, that's if they did this practice, but most of them did. Now, and then this is a mummified, this is how they look when they're taken out of the tombs or taken out of wherever they're at. They don't look like this. This is after they've been cleaned. But you can see that there are cutouts of the skull. There are places where they had surgery. You can actually tell where they had surgery. This one is still covered with its flesh. Now, again, like jerky, dried out over 1,000 years or so. But yeah, that's how it would look when you first pull it out. Or the whole mummy would look like this bad boy. Holy cow, look at that. There's a better picture of him. Now, they actually did this on purpose. They would actually wrap them up. They did not lay them out flat like we do. They actually put them up in almost like a package. You could literally carry this package everywhere. They put in a basket. They would get you all nice and tight inside. And they'd even sometimes tie you up so that you wouldn't fall apart. Again, you're dead, so it doesn't really matter to you. But these are some of the mummies that they found. And this is how they would find them, in baskets or in larger baskets where they actually cover you. This one is most likely a baby. Sometimes they'd find you without baskets and you were literally put in that position or in this position or even for a child, that position. It's pretty weird. Sometimes it's a little creepy, but yep, that was from the Inca Museum. If you have a chance, go to the Inca Museum. I'm not putting these out publicly. I want you to actually see them. So one of the big things is when you go onto Google Maps and you look at some of the pictures for this, you won't find any images because they don't want the images out there. They want you to come visit. So if you visit Peru, if you visit Cusco, do not miss the Incan Museum. Now, we didn't take many pictures. It was just, I think, those 3. So, okay. Then we have back to Pachacuti. Pachacuti. There we go. Sorry. There's the statue of Pachacuti, like we saw the day before. These were some. We actually asked our tour guide before the tour started, what were some of the safe restaurants to go to? Because in Peru, there are parasites, there's bacteria, depending on how they wash, whether they wash their hands or the water that they use. The water that they use to clean the fruits and vegetables and things like that could actually be contaminated with different parasites, worms, and viruses. So we actually had to ask our tour guide which restaurants it would be safe to go to. These are some of that he had provided us. And his name was Hermon, or as he said, German, but it's actually Hermon, or as he says, call me G. Now this was, let's see, I think this was my wife's meal, and this was a chicken with, nope, wait a second. That one's mine, actually. Yeah, sorry, I forgot it. I did not eat any of their flowers or their vegetables or some of the things that were not cooked because I worried about parasites. But this was taku taku, which was that rice and bean pancake. And on top of it was a steak. Now, it did have some of the seasoning or some of the sauce from the actual company, but the steak itself was fantastic. And this was from Chulo. The restaurant was Chulo. And it was one of the side markets. You can't even see it. It has you have to walk through this small door and it opens to a courtyard. And inside the courtyard is Chulo. So you actually have to find someone that actually knows where this is because this is a specialty restaurant. This was, let's see, I think that was my wife's. This was it was a wrap. I think it was a chicken wrap. Then there's another steak. That's somebody else's meal. I don't remember what that was exactly. And that was my associate's cooey hand or guinea pig hand. So he actually wanted to keep that for keepsakes. And that was his cooey. Let's see. That's part of his cooey. He only got half of it and it cost him 60 soles, which is about 20 bucks. Just under 20 bucks. So if he wanted the whole thing, it would cost him about 50 bucks altogether. Oh.
It is too late for that. That ship has sailed.
So this is what the roads actually look like in Cusco. Okay, this is actually day 3, so I'm going to stop it here. We're heading up the hill. Now, something for you to know is Cusco is one of the highest points, highest cities in all of Peru. But because it's so high, well, not because it's so high, but even though it's so high, you still have to climb out of it. You have to go up on different hills depending on which direction you go. So the whole thing is like in a valley of other mountains around it. So you always have to travel uphill to get out of the area. Now the ruins that we're about to go to in day 3 are spectacular. Now this is actually when we're going to get into the history. This is going to be Elvis that will be walking us around. He is hilarious and he has a great laugh. You're going to see this tomorrow. So please come back, stay some time, give us some time to show you around. And if you have any questions or comments, put them in the comments below, please. Love to answer them. Love to show you more. So day 3, we're going to go see some ruins. Day 4, day 5, we're going to see the same set of ruins, the same day. I'm not going to show you the whole thing in one day. Like all of our tours, not doing in one day. Each set of ruins is going to have their own day on our podcast. So you're going to learn about everything and anything about that place. If it is short, if there's not much video on it or other things, I might extend it as well. So thank you so much for joining us, and we will catch you next time as we explore Peru and Cusco and Machu Picchu and Lake Titicaca, the highest navigated waters in the world. Biggest lake in the world that you can actually put a boat on. So until then, if you have any comments or questions, add them to the comments below. Otherwise, we'll see you tomorrow, actually. Take care. Bye.